My name is Ryan Caldwell. I'm 38 now, but the night I'm going to tell you about happened in the winter of 2011, when I was 28. I've gone over it in my head more times than I can count. I gave a statement to the police the next morning. I sat for a recorded interview a week later. The house on Maple Ridge Lane is long sold, and the case was quietly closed with no real answers. But I still remember every creak, every shadow, every word spoken in my own voice. I'm not here to convince you. I'm just telling you what happened the night I was supposed to be home alone. It was a Tuesday in late January. My wife, Laura, had left that morning to visit her family in Charlotte. The drive was supposed to take 4 hours, but the snow started early. She called me around noon to say she'd made it safely. I told her I'd be fine. I work from home as a software engineer. Quiet work. Deadlines, the usual. The house was a 2-story colonial, built in the 1970s. Nothing special. White siding, dark shutters, a small front porch. Inside, the floors were original hardwood that had learned every way a person could walk across them. I knew the sounds. The third step on the stairs always groaned low. The hallway outside the office creaked twice if you moved fast. It was familiar. Comforting even. That evening the snow fell heavy and steady, muffling the neighborhood outside Asheville. Street lights cast a faint blood-red glow where they reflected off the drifts piled against the windows. I locked the doors, checked the windows, and set the security system. The house felt larger with just me in it. I made coffee, settled into the living room with my laptop, and tried to get some work done. Around 9:30, I heard the first wrong thing.
I was sitting on the couch when footsteps crossed the upstairs hallway. Slow, deliberate, exactly where my office was. The sound was clear, my own weight on those boards. I paused the video I was watching and listened. Nothing more. I told myself it was the house settling, or snow sliding off the roof. Old bones, as our neighbour Mr. Hargrove liked to say with a half smile whenever we complained about the creaks. The security system had glitched a few times that week. False alerts, brief static on the cameras, but nothing serious. I went back to my screen. 10 minutes later, it came again. Drawers sliding open upstairs. A chair being moved. I stood up, heart picking up a little, and called out, "Hello?" My voice sounded too loud in the quiet. No answer. I grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer and went upstairs. The hallway was empty. The office door stood ajar, though I remembered closing it. Inside, my desk chair had been pulled out and turned slightly toward the window. My notebook lay open on the desk to a blank page. When I shone the light across it at an angle, I could see faint indentations, like someone had written hard on the previous sheet, and the impression carried through. The words were too light to read. I closed the notebook, put the chair back, and checked the rest of the upstairs. Bedroom, guest room, bathroom. Nothing. The snow outside kept falling, thick and silent. I went back downstairs and pulled up the security footage on my laptop. The cameras covered the main rooms and hallways. I scrubbed through the timestamps around when I'd heard the noises. The footage showed empty rooms. Then, right at the moment I remembered the footsteps, the image flickered with static for 3 seconds. When it cleared, everything looked the same. I told myself it was a glitch. I called Laura. The call dropped twice before it connected. We talked for a few minutes. She sounded tired. I didn't mention the noises. After we hung up, my phone buzzed with a new voicemail. The number was my own cell. The message was just breathing, slow, steady, and then, very faintly, my own voice saying, "I'm still here." I played it 3 times.
The timestamp said it had been recorded while I was on the phone with Laura. I deleted it. My hands were shaking a little. That was the start of the denial. I stayed downstairs for another hour, lights on, TV playing low. The wind picked up, branches scraping the roof like fingernails. Around 11:30, I heard movement again. Soft footsteps crossing the ceiling above me, heading toward the stairs. I froze. They stopped at the top, then started down. I know every sound that staircase makes. These matched my exact tread. I stood, backed toward the kitchen, and grabbed a steak knife from the block. "This isn't funny," I said aloud. The footsteps reached the bottom and stopped. The hallway to the living room was dark. Nothing there. I checked the security app again. More static at the corresponding timestamp. When the image returned, one of the living room lamps was on that hadn't been on before. I went through the whole house again, room by room. The kitchen lights flickered in a slow sequence, left to right, then back, like someone walking past the switches. In the basement, the door was unlocked. I always locked it. Down there, the air was colder than it should have been, even for a winter night. I shone the flashlight across the storage shelves and saw nothing out of place. But when I turned to leave, my own footprints in the dust on the floor looked like there were two sets overlapping in places.
Back upstairs, the family photos on the hallway wall had shifted. Not much, just a few degrees. The one of Laura and me on our honeymoon now faced the wall a little more. I straightened them and stood there listening. The house was quiet except for the snow and wind, but the quiet felt full, watched. I tried to sleep in the living room with the lights on. Around 1 in the morning, the footsteps returned, following me when I got up to use the bathroom. They mirrored my movements exactly, always a half-second behind or ahead, coming from whatever room I wasn't in. I heard my own voice from the heating vents, low, conversational. It repeated thoughts I'd had earlier that day while working. Private frustrations about a bug in the code, a passing worry about Laura driving in the snow. The words were mine, but I hadn't spoken them aloud. I armed myself with the knife and flashlight and cleared the house again. Every room empty. Cold spots lingered in corners. In the upstairs hallway, the air felt thicker, like someone had just been standing there. The security footage later showed doors closing on their own. Slow, deliberate. Shadows shifted in empty spaces for fractions of a second before the cameras glitched. By 2 o'clock, the dread had settled deep in my chest. The house felt alive in a way it never had. Personal. It knew the rhythm of my steps. It knew how I breathed when I was trying to stay calm. I sat on the edge of the bed in the master bedroom and heard two voices, both mine, talking quietly in the guest room across the hall. One sounded tired and scared. The other was calmer, almost reassuring. They were arguing about whether I should leave the house. The scared one wanted to run. The calm one said it was too late. The storm was too bad. And anyway, where would I go? I crept to the doorway and listened. The conversation stopped the moment I moved. Then the calm voice spoke from the darkness of the guest room, clear and close. "You don't have to be afraid. I'm already here." I didn't go in. I backed away and went downstairs. My car wouldn't start when I tried it in the garage. Dead battery or something else. Phone signal was gone completely. The snow had turned into a full blizzard. I couldn't even see the neighbors' lights. The hours after that blurred into pure nightmare.
I hid in the downstairs bathroom for a while, knife in hand, listening to slow footsteps approach the door. They stopped right outside. The mirror above the sink began to fog despite the cold. Letters appeared in the condensation, written in handwriting that looked exactly like mine. Stay. I wiped it away. It came back. I left the bathroom and moved through the house, turning on every light. They would turn off again in rooms I had just left. Around 3 a.m., the power flickered hard. The whole house went dark except for the blood-red emergency lights on the security panel and the faint orange glow from the streetlights outside. I stood in the middle of the living room, heart hammering, and spoke into the darkness. "What do you want?" My own voice answered from the far corner, calm and matter-of-fact, the way I sound when I'm explaining code to a colleague. "I just want to be home. Same as you. We've been here together all night." I swung the flashlight toward the voice. Nothing there. But for a split second the beam caught two shadows on the wall that didn't match my shape. Then they were gone. I searched the house one final time. Upstairs, the beds in both the master and guest rooms looked slept in. Sheets rumpled, pillows indented. In the kitchen, 2 coffee mugs sat on the counter, both still faintly warm. Mine and an identical one I didn't own. On the floor in the hallway, dust showed 2 distinct sets of footprints walking side by side in places.
As the first grey light of dawn filtered through the windows, the storm began to ease. My phone signal returned. Laura called. I answered on the first ring and broke down, telling her everything. She drove back that day. The police came. They took prints, reviewed the footage, listened to the voicemail. They found the disturbed objects, the 2 sets of prints in the dust, the extra mug. No signs of forced entry. No intruder. They suggested a gas leak, stress, maybe a stalker playing mind games. The case went nowhere. I know what I experienced. We sold the house 6 months later. The new owners lasted less than a year. I still wake up some nights hearing faint footsteps in the hallway outside my bedroom. My own tread, half a second out of sync. I lie there and wonder if the house refused to let me be alone that night. Or if something decided I never had been. In my police interview, the last thing I said on the recording was quiet. I didn't even realize I'd said it until they played it back for me later. I think it liked the company. The house on Maple Ridge Lane is still there. Someone else lives in it now. I hope they never have a night when they're truly home alone. Because it won't be.